Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Lumière Learning Monday. We are on season four, and finally, I'm getting a chance to speak with the person I've been following for some time on social media, a very dynamic and inspiring Bhavana Issar. Bhavana, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Delighted to be here. I'm very grateful for you to consider me worthy of being here.
Thank you. The uh, prerna, your name means inspiration. Bhavna, I beg your pardon, is emotion,
Yes,
feeling, and
yes.
the prerna for Bhavna to create Caregiver Saathi, and what led you in this very very multifaceted journey. I've privy because I've been your student of your journey for some time, but I'd love for our uh, friends who've joined the
Right.
Lumiere team, the community, and people who log in from all over to watch us. Tell us a little bit about where your journey began, Bhavna.
Certainly, most certainly. Very happy. And, Deepa, you must tell me about what you have been observing because sometimes, you can be navel gazing and
I'll tell
not
you very
really.
quickly, very quickly. Professional, done the standard things, went to XLRI, worked in corporate, and then started and is on the Limca Book of Records for being a motorcyclist, and so many fascinating aspects to you. You are a chapter in Rashmi Bansal's book. I want you to tell us, we have a 30-minute slot, and I'm going to be quiet most of the time. So the mic is yours. I'll only be coming in to nudge you a little from here and there. So we get the audience gets to see the whole diamond. Okay.
That really is very, very, is a little much for me to take in, but thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for noticing and appreciating. Okay, so I'm going to focus on Caregiver Saathi, but certainly talk to you about all the things that led to it.
Please.
I have been a caregiver for more than 30 years. I was in my teens when, I noticed, or it was really close home because my father had a terminal illness and he was a pilot in the Air Force. And for a person who was super fit and so disciplined, and there was absolutely no concern for health, to, dramatically have a medical condition like multiple system atrophy, which we didn't know for a very long time. And, I was in my teens, my mother was in her 40s, my dad was in his 40s actually. And to experience an autoimmune condition that dramatically limited him was something that we took a long while to come to understand and come to terms with. And my mother being this strong person decided to keep us from the trauma of it. But so we knew something was going on, my brother and I have a younger brother. And but we didn't know exactly. And we live in a culture where being a caregiver is not seen as a separate thing, or at least
Yeah.
it wasn't, certainly when I was growing up.
Mhm.
And we do everything that we do because we are good partners, good sons, good daughters, good friends. And caregiving is a very inherent part of who we are. um, I think I didn't see myself as a caregiver for very long. And my experience with my dad or my mom was certainly the first of many. And having been one for a very long time, I think my first uh, response to the challenge of caregiving was to become independent and to
Mhm.
become a support to my family, which meant having a career. So I
Wow.
I studied to be a coder or a techie, and decided to get into management because that would have enabled me to get a good, well paying job soon. And I was lucky to get admission into XLRI, and I got into the profession or professional work of being an HR professional. And I worked with some great organizations, and I specialized in the area of learning and development. And no surprises there. I come from a family of academics and teachers. So clearly, learning and those aspects of life and organization are probably a part of my DNA. And I got attracted to the field of organization development, process work, and my professional expertise or discipline is in the area of people processes, organization development, learning, behavioral sciences, change, etc.
Beautiful.
In my heart, I am a techie or a geek. I get very excited with technology, but that's something that I could not pursue. It's perhaps the biggest regret of my life, if any. And then I think I reached a point where, one, I had the mental bandwidth to step back and think.
Wow.
Two, I think I was a little bored and a little burnt out from the corporate life. And the third most important thing was that I was deeply influenced by my dad's early passing. He was 54. I have spoken about this on many occasions, and of late a little more. That the fact that he was 54 and he had great plans for his life, um, and he could not live his life, impacted me, and I felt I need to live a life that I feel has been meaningful and purposeful. And whatever life I've had should be of some consequence, right? I think that being successful in the corporate world is very valuable, but it didn't feel like that was feeding my soul at that point in time. So I decided to take a detour and using the terminology from motorcycle riding, I went off road, and I I decided to step back, and that's when I reconnected with motorcycle riding. So you mentioned the book Touch the Sky. It speaks a little bit about my story, and very grateful to Rashmi Bansal for helping me see my story as valuable. And basically, I just got back to reconnecting with myself through motorcycle riding, and with a tribe of women who are motorcyclists. And the idea of many women in the world where motorcycling is predominantly seen as masculine
Yeah.
was was a big reconnection with myself. And I was lucky to be a part of 7 women who went to Mana Pass on our motorcycles, and it was a life-changing experience for me. And I remember in that journey, which was, as you can imagine, full of everything. It was full of heartbreak, it was full of challenges, it was full of falling off your motorcycle so many times. There was a very long patch in which I was riding the bike and I was thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing? and why am I doing what I'm doing? As much as I also, there were many patches when I felt, if I can do this, I can do anything. And I think it's complementary. There were times at which the body was giving up,
Mm-hmm.
but the mind was determined.
Wow.
And there were times at which the mind would give up, but the body would pull the self, right?
Beautiful.
So it was such an interesting experience. I came back from that ride with many life lessons. One of which was that I must attempt what I believe, I want to do. And simultaneously, I had been inspired or challenged by my mentor, Raghu Anant Narayan, who is the founder of Sumedhas, which is where I learned process work. I'm a fellow of Sumedhas as well. And in a lab, one of the questions that he had asked us was to explore what it means to live a dharmic life,
Mm-hmm.
and what it means to to be a person who is authentic and true to oneself. um, Also inspired from the Mahabharata is that a dharmic life is one in which you can go beyond your personal suffering and make it better for others who may be in the similar situation. I think that was the essence of why Karna was not leading a dharmic life, in the sense he was occupied with himself. And that impacted me. And I thought deeply about what was my life experience. And my life experience, one of the biggest parts of my life experiences was the fact that one, I saw my dad's illness. He passed away early. Two, I experienced the challenges that my mother, who was a primary caregiver, went through. And three, that there needs to be an elaborate support system if modern day women
Yeah.
have to be able to be the caregivers as well as achieve their ambitions and dreams. It's a complex problem, and it requires an understanding of behavioral sciences. It requires maybe technology, and it requires maybe somebody who has this life experience. So, Caregiver Saathi for me is at the intersection of my life experience, my professional expertise, and my lost academic interest of technology. What I am looking to crack is a sustainable business model, which will then give me the right to die in peace, hopefully, after 54. So to make the connection, crossing the milestone of the age of 54 is an emotional
Yeah.
piece to get across.
Yeah. 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 And how old are you now? Uh,
I will turn 50 in January.
so it's really powerful, to have this as a landmark for you to cross
Yes.
54. And in that sense, after that, it's like the samarpan to your dad that you've been doing through your life journey, isn't it?
Yes, I have spoken about this before in the conversation with Rashmi Shetty, and I would like to repeat it, which is that I heard this beautiful podcast by Anderson Cooper, who speaks about All There Is his podcast, wherein he speaks about how important it becomes for people who lose their parent young to cross the milestone of age of their parent. And that's when it struck me that maybe that's what's guiding me unconsciously. And I also interestingly read some research that if women reach the age of 49, which I am today, without any major illness, then thanks to modern technology, we are likely to live up to 92. So who knows?
Amazing. I didn't know about this work on passing that milestone, but this exact same thing has happened to me and my sister. My mother died when she was 50. So so much of my life and my sister's life has been about living in a certain way with a certain purpose and crossing that milestone.
Yeah,
So yes,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you for that very honest, heartfelt sharing. And if you heard yourself, you know why you are on this show already, right?
Well,
Bhavna?
the thing about leading an unconventional, taking the off road,
Hmm.
is that it can feel like you're meandering, because you're not following a laid out path. You are not following the shortest path between 2 points, which has been traversed by a few people before, right? And it's complex because it's full of adventure. It's your own journey, but it can feel like you're getting lost, and it can feel like you're not being efficient and you're not being smart. Uh, but
That's the trade off, I guess.
yeah, but I think if I am true to myself, I'd rather do it my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, there's
Yeah.
there's a lovely childhood story of mine. My mother would often laugh
Hmm.
and say that I was the ape child. What that meant was that if she tried to feed me or if she tried to dress me, I would refuse it, and I would keep saying ape. I will do it myself. So I suppose there are some things that are very core to us. This is
Yeah.
core to
That sounds like my daughter.
yeah. It's
Beautiful.
okay. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You also have your own consulting practice. You do Caregiver Saathi. You have
Yes.
many hobbies. How does Bhavna structure her day? How do you get your 1440 minutes a day to work for you?
Oh my God, I don't, and I wish I did. So I have to get better at structure and structuring my day. Uh, I am not a very calendar driven person. I have struggled with it. I have tried thousands of times and failed. Uh, but I'm better than what I used to be. There are some things that I do necessarily put. But I think it would be fair to say that I follow my heart, and I have phases. So it's not like I do everything together on a daily or a weekly basis. But if I look back at a year, then I would have done something of all aspects of who I want to be.
Beautiful.
So I enjoy crocheting. I got back to crocheting, for example, again to
Wow.
honor my grandmother, and I think I enjoy it. And it gives me ठहराव or the stillness that I need.
Wow.
Uh, Certainly, because I am definitely a very restless person. And I realized that instead of using my fingers on the phone, I might as well make something. So uh, I, there was a period in which I would crochet every day.
Wow.
There have been months when I don't. So there is that, I have so much yarn in my house, I should be thrown out of the house. But, I have these peaks and troughs of my interest. Uh, and I'm certainly planning to live very, very long because if I have to cover all my interests with the level of passion that
Passion.
I want to, then I will need another 50 years, I'm sure.
Completely, completely. And inshallah, may it be long and healthy and just so inspiring the way you are. Uh, Bhavna, I want to ask you, your website is so, has like all of these facets to caregiving. When you think, when I saw caregiver, I immediately thought of my caregiver journey and, one aspect as a daughter caring for her father who had
Yes.
stroke. And I've been doing that with my husband and my team and the family for 18 years now. He was
Oh, wow.
70 when he got his stroke. And
Oh,
much of my conversation also has been around caregiving, but I never thought of it from an organizational lens the way you have. So I'm very intrigued, and please tell our audience a little bit about how do organizations and where do they fit in the context of caregiver?
so let me start by first telling you that very interestingly, BCG did a recent research and it is available publicly. And I would talk about it, in which they spoke to Southeast Asian countries and said that, if you could identify in two categories, one as employees who are caregivers and employees who are non caregivers. Yeah. What do you think would be the ratio? Yes.
When I
Um,
think, since you say Southeast Asia, I think there's a clue there. I think because culturally we are all about taking care, so I guess the number
yeah,
would be really, really high.
yeah.
In maybe
At an aggregate, yeah, at an
yeah, maybe
aggregate
70,
level.
80%. I don't know, 70%.
At an aggregate level for Southeast Asia, it is 60% identify as caregivers now. Yeah. In India, and in India, the caregiver employee population is as high as 88%.
Amazing.
Right. Now, juxtapose this with 2018, when I spoke with many people, given my HR and people background. And I said to people that, listen, we need to think about employees who are caregivers or caregiving at the workplace. I had many heads of organizations speak about saying, I don't think we have many caregivers, because when it comes to people looking after illness, how many would there be? 4%, 5%? Or we didn't see caregiving as a wide spectrum. But caregiving starts from childcare in your life stage, could be and older people care or elderly care, and it is about caring for people during your life, because adolescents, toddlers, ailing people, everybody needs care. Also, I think that dealing with the care aspect was not very high for two big reasons. One, the boundary between personal and professional lives was
Yeah.
harder, and
Hmm.
you could say, like, keep this personal stuff at home, or somebody else handles that, etc. And the social structure was that people had larger families, women were not working, and so on. So you did have family structures.
Yeah.
In one of my organizations, for example, you could easily be told, that it's odd to take time for babysitting. It is odd to take time. Don't you have help at home? Uh, don't you have a wife who can who can do the stuff for you. Um, so the personal professional boundaries were really hard. And the second was that only certain type of women could be professionally successful,
Yeah.
who did not have very significant, immediate, active caregiving responsibilities. Now, as a variety of women enter the workforce, and as many men take on caregiving responsibilities, or as they are more and more single individuals who are also parents and who are also caring for the adults, the demographics is shifting significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, therefore, it is becoming very important to look at the category of individuals who are a working population who are also caregivers, and what that means for their productivity and burnout and ability to engage with careers
Yeah.
and jobs and other things. So it is now becoming increasingly important for organizations to start recognizing that the people that we have, the talent that we have, could be distracted or could be consumed with their caregiving challenges.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a burning deck today. It is in the US, where
Yes.
now there is a talent crisis. uh, but it will be for
It will
us.
be. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
do think that we cannot dig a well when we are thirsty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to prepare for it now,
Yeah.
so that when we need it, we are better prepared.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that a very large number of women have been falling off the formal workforce for a very long period of time. Now, there are multiple interventions that need to be done. One is find ways of getting them back, and so on and so forth. But to quote Desmond Tutu, it is important to pull people out of the river, but at some point, you have to go upstream and figure out why they are falling in the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a
Beautiful.
large number of women leave the workforce because they are expected to be primary caregivers and because they don't have support systems to persevere in the workplace. So there are multiple reasons, usually marriage, mobility, motherhood, menopause, that challenges women. But there is also the ongoing pressure of caregiving. And caregiving can cause a burnout if it is not, supported. One person cannot care for a long period of time.
Yeah. It's very interesting that Bhavna, you talk about this aspect as becoming very important because on the one hand, you see a lot of assisted living facilities growing in India,
Yes.
but culturally, wherever we can help it, to have families and communities support to have in home caregiving whenever it's possible by just providing the how balances this emotional need. One is the physical aspect of assisted living, but how do you enable? And I think that's the huge piece that Caregiver Saathi takes care of. And it's very important. And you add to that equation the organization as an enabler. Who thought of it? I think that's really pioneering and a very important contribution that you make, which I think is going to be a very important turning point, I think, in this trajectory of elder living in our country and, the inspiration for the world on how do you mentally realign yourself, how do you reframe the caregiving role that we play, starting from admitting to accepting and to really think of the elder at the center to make it more wellness focused, both for the elder as well as the counterpart who's the caregiver. You also do work with grief, and you have an app now. I'm very quickly just giving these bursts for our audience to get curious, to go and search, because what we do at Lumière is to create an ecosystem for of people who are interested in these aspects. So, for example, wellness has this compromise, which if it's uncared for, caregiving, and that's what Bhavana's tackling this big problem and solving this big problem through Caregiver Saathi. Bhavna, you have, talked about a very, very what is called feminine aspect of crochet, a very masculine aspect of biking, somewhere in between the HR piece and the coding piece, which is both. So so many facets to Bhavna Issar, and 30 minutes can do, just when she's talking about touching the sky, and I'm sure Rashmi's book will tell us more about it. But go and find out more, and Bhavna could be the inspiration that you're looking for today to lift yourself up, and to find help you find your own North Star. Bhavna, last words for our audience.
Last words. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to talk and look at my story very differently. I believe every story is valuable, and I wish that people would tell their stories with a lot more love and compassion and pride. Um, what I'd like, what would I say is last words? How can I inspire anyone? I think the inspiration is within you. I believe that
It's beautiful. The inspiration is within, I think, and how nothing in your life experiences has gone waste. You've collected everything with so much uh, thought, and allowing for serendipity to also happen to you. And you've lived a life with such thoughtfulness, but at the same time, a level of daring do and playfulness and fearlessness. So I think there are so many things that we've taken away just through your presence, through the sharing, through your stories. And, uh, you've also sort of uh, honored your father and your mother and what they stood for. And I think all of their gifts to you, even in the difficult times, there has been so much of gift
oh,
gifts that
totally.
you've received, right, through the
Oh, many,
pain.
many,
And
many.
many times we don't look at pain and grief as gifts, because they have such enormous power to unlock our potential.
So I think the lasting words that I would like to say, or at the close, I would like to say is actually I wrote an article which spoke about how uh, transformation is possible through grief, and how one can go about it themselves, which is converting pain into potential energy and transformative energy. I think it is very important for us to look back and find that which pained us, that which caused us perhaps suffering. But if we can use it to make it better for one or many other people, then I think it is a life, a dharmic life, and a life well led. That's all that
So
we can.
beautiful. So beautiful. Really well said. Uh, Thank you, Bhavna Isar, for that extremely, extremely powerful and very evocative conversation. I think you took us through all of those bylanes of your life, and thank you for sharing with such love and candor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I look forward to be in touch with you over the next 50 years.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all of you which watching, and please go and look at all of our other videos at Lumiere Light and Insight, where we've got amazing humans talk about their stories and their journeys, and be inspired. Thank you.
Thank you.